Welcome to A Walk in the Woods, Hiking New Hampshire. Get ready to embark on an educational adventure as we uncover the hidden gems of the Granite State. Join us as we hike through dense forests, summit craggy peaks, and discover the rich history and natural beauty that New Hampshire has to offer. Whether you're an experienced outdoors enthusiast or a novice explorer, our journey will teach and inspire you. So lace up your boots and experience the thrill of hiking in New Hampshire like never before. This is A Walk in the Woods.
Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Lionel Chute, the Director of Natural Resources for Sullivan County. And I'm out here on this beautiful, hot day in October with some friends behind me. These are Bruce Furlan's cows. He keeps his cows here. We are about to go on the Glidden Ridge Trail, which is very exciting. So if you look over here, you can see that's the nursing home, the county nursing home. And you could just make out through the trees that there's a new building going up. That's this massive building project that'll be going on for a couple years. But to get to this trailhead, you just come through on County Farm Road off of 2nd New Hampshire Turnpike and then turn in to, like you're going to go visit somebody at the nursing home, and you'll see that there's this gravel road in the back. And just come up there, and then you'll see over here that there's a parking area and a kiosk, and that's the trailhead. So if you look at this kiosk, you can see all of our trails here that we've built. The county has a 1,450 acre contiguous parcel of land, and we've been developing it for trails for quite a few years now. So right now, we're over here. See how it says County Farm Trailhead? So here's 2nd New Hampshire Turnpike. Claremont is that way. And if you just come in here, like I was saying, you just go up before you get to the nursing home, like you're going to visit somebody in the nursing home, you just come on in to the parking area and then up a little dirt road, and that'll bring you right here. So here we are. The car's right over there. You'll see this big sign, Glidden Ridge Trail going this way and Unity Mountain Trail going that way. So I've got a trail brochure right here, and just show it to you real quick. So this is the trail brochure. You can download this yourself from our website. We also have paper copies. We'd be happy to send you some. But this is basically the trail that we're going to go on now. So let's go for a walk. So you'll see as you're walking along that on the right-hand side there's an apple orchard. This is the county's orchard. It actually consists of two different orchards. We've got the younger orchard here inside this fence. This went up about 12, 13 years ago. And inside are half pear trees and half or a third at this point apples. The fruits are being leased to a farmer here in Unity. And then the mature orchard is right over here. These trees are quite a bit older. They go back to the 70s and 60s. It's just a nice spot up here in the orchard, looking down on the campus. So you just keep going. We're on Quimby Road. This is an old road. Quimby Hill is just that way, about a half mile over. And this was a busy road back in the day, probably in the 17 and 1800s. Today, it's just a thrown up Class 6 road, just sitting here. So you got to follow it for a while. Just keep going on the road. Okay, if you've made it this far, you've got a reward coming. So we've just come down Quimby Road for a while. Took Josh and I about 10 minutes, maybe 15. And you want to keep your eye out for this sign right here. So you see that? There's a turn off the road, Glidden Ridge Trail, take a left. And you can see it's a 90-degree cut-in right there that you're going to want to take. So this is where we plunge into the woods. So what you're going to be looking for throughout this trail is a yellow blaze. We painted this trail, so you'll see it's a yellow paint on trees. At some point we'll swap it out for a metal marker, but right now that's what you're after. So here we are, and I want to point out a couple times as we're doing the hike how the forest changes, because it's really fun to notice that. Right now we're in hardwood forest, primarily red maple. So these trees all here are red maple. And the way you can tell them from a sugar maple is the bark is smooth and gray until it starts to break up. But it breaks up in patches, like somebody, punched a pane of glass. So it can create these little areas of lines. See that? And that's how you'll know a red maple from a sugar maple. But we have mostly red maple here. There's some poplar as well. So this is a pretty young forest. There's a nice big poplar right there. And some birch, some paper birch. So nice early successional hardwood forest. So as we get further into the forest, the trees are getting bigger. And if you look over here, you've got a beautiful poplar, probably a big-toothed aspen. All you have to do is look down where it falls, so we can see the leaves pretty quick. And you see those big teeth. So if this was a trembling aspen, those teeth would be much smaller, and there'd be a lot more of them. So that's a big-toothed aspen, and nice, beautiful specimen. And we've got a very nice oak through the woods over there, and a big ash off in the distance there. Another really big ash over here. So this part of the forest is quite a bit older, I would say. Maybe 80 to 100 years.
Mostly hardwood.
And still hardwood, that's right. That's a good thing to notice, because it's going to change. So we're now about halfway up the hill, and this is a really nice spot. We've got two very big red oak trees, one on either side of the trail. So you can see these guys have been here for over 100 years. One there and one here, and they've seen a lot over all those years. So there's a nice stone here on the trail we're sitting on. This is a glacial erratic, which is basically a big piece of rock that got dropped by the glacier probably 13,000 years ago, somewhere between 14 and 11,000 years ago. as that glacier was melting, it would let go different things and drop them places. So this is a pretty small one, pretty small glacial erratic, but if you look around, you can see there's a bunch of stones on the ground, but there's nothing quite like this. That's why we put the trail here, so that folks could take a breather. Okay, so here we are. We're getting higher, closer to the top, and if you look around here, you can see this is a younger forest again. And notice those birches. There's quite a lot of paper birch here. That's an indicator of early succession. We've got some beeches as well, which would be late succession, but none of them are very big or old, so they've only been here a little while. If you look at the ground, it's kind of fun to see what's going on here as well. This is a shrub. This is called maple leaf viburnum. See how the leaves are very mapley? But it's opposite, see? And it's a shrub. It produces a berry that is not edible, but birds love it. And also here, I want to point this one out. That is a little basswood tree, a little linden tree. Tilia is the Latin name. And basswood is an indicator of enrichment, so it won't grow unless the calcium and magnesium and other nutrients are relatively high. So this is telling us that we're in a sweet spot, a place that has elevated nutrients. And we also know that from some of the wildflowers that are growing a little further up. We definitely have enrichment up here. Now, when you're up on a mountain like this and you're seeing enriched indicators, it can only be coming from the bedrock. And so we know that the bedrock here is sweet relative to some of our more acidic and granitic rock formations that are characteristic of New Hampshire. So if you didn't know this, believe it or not, New Hampshire is a piece of Africa. It's a piece of East Africa that broke off millions of years ago and basically was floating around, and it took a long time, but it gradually came up to North America and slammed into it on the east side. And that is New Hampshire. The Connecticut River is the divide. And so the eastern side of Massachusetts and Connecticut, Rhode Island, are all that same island from Africa. And so to this day, you can take a shovel and you can check out the soil here, and it'll compare very much with areas in eastern Africa. So it's quite incredible. That's why when you go across the river into Vermont, now you're in North America proper, and that soil is different. It's sweeter, it has more nutrients. So that's part of our whole culture here in New Hampshire. You know, the hard scrabble, the acidic, we're going to make it no matter what, live free or die. All of that can be thought of as going back to our bedrock geology. Now you know you're almost at the top, because look at these trees. Do you see them? These are pine trees, red pine trees. This is a plantation. This was put in about 50 years ago, and I was talking to somebody and they said that it had been a Boy Scout project. Now, why they bothered to come up here and plant a bunch of red pine trees, we'll never know. But because we're really pretty far out right now. We're right almost to the top of the ridge, and there's no farmland around here, there's no houses, and yet we've inherited this small grove of red pine. So there's an insect that hurts a red pine, and if we're unlucky and it gets here, it'll kill them off. But if it doesn't, then we'll have this red pine stand for as long as they last, and they can go for another 100 years. This is not technically it's a native species, but it's a very uncommon species in New Hampshire. You would see red pine only on the tops of mountains in areas that burn frequently from lightning strikes. So that may be why the trees are doing well up here, because they like the high elevation. But they were certainly planted. All right. So here we are. We're almost to the top. You can see the ledge right here. That is the top. And remember I was talking about enrichment earlier, the basswood trees and all that. This ridge continues in that direction. And if you walk along the base of the ridge, you'll see wild geranium and big basswood trees and other plants that are indicative of enrichment. So it's this bedrock, it's this cliff here that has got the goodies that are supporting a stronger diversity of wildflowers and trees. So we've got different wood ferns here, and New Hampshire has quite a few. Wood ferns are, I'll start with the Latin genus of Dryopteris. This is a marginal wood fern here, and there's also spinulose wood fern and evergreen wood fern, intermediate wood fern. But the one I want to point out is this one here. This is Goldie's fern, and Goldie's fern is the biggest wood fern. You can see that the leaves are very large. This is almost a rare species. It's really only known in a handful of locations around the state. This is a sweet soil obligate, so it'll only grow where the rocks are very high in nutrient status. And so it's another proof that we're somewhere kind of special geologically. We've got basswood trees right here that are doing fine. And again, basswood wouldn't be happy either if there wasn't enough soil nutrients to go around. So this Goldie's fern is quite a nice discovery on our hike today. So once you get to the top, you'll see this sign here, Glidden Ridge Trail, going that way. We're going to take another turn now. We're now going to stay on the top of the ridge of Glidden's Hill, for the Glidden family that were one of the earlier families of Unity. If you went that way downhill, you would end up, you're still on county land, but you'd end up north, headed into the center of Unity, and we came from that way, which is where the fields are down below. We'll get a nice view of those soon. So, do you know what you're looking at right now? This is moose poop. See that? That's what it looks like. And that's a great sign. Knowing that we've got moose up here, that's awesome. So we're looking through the trees at a nice view. And have you noticed that the trees have changed? So we're now in hemlock forest. There's some oak. There's some other things, but it's mostly hemlock. If you look on this side, you can see it's just a thick hemlock forest. And that has to do with how cold it is up here, and the quality of the rocks have changed. So whatever that enrichment was back there with the Goldie's fern and the basswood, we don't have that here. These rocks are not sweet like that. This is more of your traditional New Hampshire cliff rock. This is our big view spot, our lookout up on Glidden Ridge, and you can see we're looking west into Vermont. The Connecticut River is just over that rise, and then it's Vermont all the way. But down lower, you see that bright green field down there? That's part of the county complex. That's a field that's right now under lease with Lyle Perry from Cornish. He's a haymaker, and he's doing a beautiful job managing those fields for hay production. It's nice and quiet up here. That's Mount Ascutney, just across the river. Old Monadnock. The Monadnocks are a Native American term for these singular mountains that stick up around this part of the world. So the famous Mount Monadnock in Keene is kind of a sister to Mount Ascutney. They're almost the same size, and they each have fantastic botany and geology if you ever get up there. Okay, well, we're coming off the top of the ridge now into a really beautiful mature hemlock stand. So this is hemlock at its best. Some of these trees are probably close to 200 years old now. We'll show you a couple of the bigger ones in just a second. Here's a really nice hemlock in this grove of hemlock, eastern hemlock. Take a look at that. That's good 200 years old, I would say. And hemlocks are very important. They're a favorite food of porcupines. They're used by a lot of wildlife. That's a sugar maple, I think. It's a big one. A couple of real big trees up here. There's some great oak trees in this area as well, like this one right here. And these trees are also good 150, 200 years old. Oaks are incredibly important for the ecosystem. Over 300 different types of moths utilize the oak leaf as the tree lives, and so even something as common as an oak tree turns out is very, very important for the whole ecological system. So this is pretty cool. We are now at a dead hemlock tree, and hemlocks are the nurse species for these guys, which are called bracket fungi, when you see a big fungi on a tree. Now, this particular species of bracket fungi is very special because it's the hemlock varnish conch. You see how shiny it gets? It can be super shiny when it's younger. And this has tremendous medicinal value. So this is a very important medicinal plant originally in Asian cultures, but today there are people, a lot of people, are making a tea of this, and they're drinking it every day to boost their immune system. It's been shown to have value in helping people with AIDS and other immune issue diseases. So this is a beautiful example of both bracket fungi and the hemlock varnish conch. So we're coming out of the we're coming down the hill. We've come down the road. We've left the older forest, and we're now in young forest that was probably pasture 100 years ago. Now coming back to forest, and we're coming into some old fields here, and there are apple trees here as well. So this was definitely an old farm at one time with an orchard, and you can hear the 2nd New Hampshire Turnpike in the distance. And we're going to take a left here, and we're going to head down a real road where the water treatment plant is for the county to get back to where we started.
Go ahead.
So we've just come down and we're at a junction. You can see we've got a sign here. Unity Mountain Trail is what we're on. We've just come off of the Glidden Ridge Trail, and we're joining the Unity Mountain Trail. So if we were to go this way, that way, we would head north and up. We'd cross the 2nd New Hampshire Turnpike, and we'd keep winding our way up to Marshall Pond. But we're going to go left to complete our traverse, our loop that we've been on. So yeah.
Footage here.
This is the county's backup water supply, and there's nobody here, but it's you'll hear that sound. You hear that kind of sound. That's to scare away the mice, so the mice don't get into the water. Inside these buildings are big storage tanks of water, and it's used just as backup. We have a lot of very productive wells, and so the nursing home and the jail and staff like myself who work at the county complex, most of the water that we get is coming from the wells. But if the wells ever stopped for any reason, then there's lots and lots of water here to serve everyone that is on the complex. So don't be surprised when you are hiking along and you come upon these two buildings. That's what they are, and it's the only spot on the trail that you'll see any kind of structure like this.
Sure, just because it looks nice.
Cool. And we're almost back.
Yeah. Cool.
We're now back at the point of beginning, the POB. We've gone around, it's been a 1.5 mile hike with some steep inclines. So if you do want to come out, just be ready to get your heart rate up a little bit. But it's well worth it. The views from up top are fantastic. And we've made this trail for you. So we'd really like you to come out and give it a try. Thanks a lot for coming out with me again. And I'll see you next time.
Yeah.